All right, we are recording our. I guess we're going to call this a special episode. With me is the judge and the Ozark Howler. Say hey, guys.
Hey guys.
You don't need to really say hey, guys. You could just. I'm saying it to you to say hey. So, but we're all together. If you're hearing this episode and you don't follow our social media at all, we lost a really good friend, a co-founder of the podcast, Jason, the super producer, passed away Sunday morning, Easter, from an illness he's been battling for probably about a year and a half. That he finally got the better of him. You know, he put up a good fight. I know the judge and I hate to say it, but I think we had kind of conditioned ourselves to maybe have gotten that call because we just couldn't understand. We just couldn't figure out how he was still fighting the way he was fighting.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. He right to the end, man, he was, I mean, they were doing everything they could to save him, and
why don't you just go ahead and say he got sick? He got sepsis in a hospital, and his organs shut down. Yeah, did you say that?
I think we kind of didn't we say that on a previous episode, but
I don't know. But you didn't say it to my audience.
Mm-hmm. To your audience, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they,
Yeah. And so the recap is Jason got COVID, and he had some underlying health issues that we were not aware of, that he did not share with us. And it attacked his kidneys, and his kidneys failed and shut down. And so for the last year, he had been on dialysis, and they were working on getting him to the point where he could get a kidney transplant. And he got an infection. I think the infection was maybe in his foot. And because of the state his kidneys were in, they could not fight the infection, and sepsis set in. And they tried everything they could, including removing part of his foot, but it just kept coming back, and
he went through like 4 or 5 surgeries in the last 6 weeks, just trying to cut out the infection, and till the very end, though, he never gave up. He was very optimistic that he was going to return to the podcast and things like that. He would message me periodically and things like that, and just a grim day. It's a grim day.
Yeah.
But in true to fashion form of From the Shadows podcast, and really kind of a scoundrel kind of personality as the Howler, we figured we would tell funny stories about him and poke fun of him, because the bet is who's he going to haunt first.
Yeah, I think
he wasn't going to haunt me at all, because he was one of my people. I mean, he was like my brother. He's like my twin brother. Not quite as tall and good looking as me, but he was my twin brother.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Essentially, yeah.
I couldn't tell the two of you apart if I ran into you somewhere.
Right, and certainly politically we were the same on so many levels.
Yeah.
We loved R&B. Mm-hmm. Big trucks. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, Jason. We got to know Jason really well over the last 3 or 4 years, and I met him on the movie set of Escape from Death Block 13. It's where I first met him, and then when the judge had the crazy idea that maybe we could do a podcast, our buddy Chris Hahn, who had been friends with Jason even longer, suggested Jason be our producer. And thank God he did, because we never got this thing off the ground.
That's right. We talked about doing a podcast, and Grover and I were talking like, well, what do you got to do? We actually started doing the research about buying the equipment. We're like, dude, we have no idea. We we are so non-tech. Grover and I are so non-tech savvy that we basically said this is an impossibility, not going to happen. And then, maybe the greatest actor of our generation, Chris Hahn.
Absolutely, certainly of our peer group.
Of course, he
and stuntman.
And stuntman.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll give him the best stuntman. I don't know. After my next movie comes out, I think I'm going to supplant him as the best actor. But that's
bring me back before we get off. My son is reading Hal Needham's book, and I just can't wait till Chris Hahn's book comes out.
Do you have the 64 different color crayon set that goes with the Chris Hahn's book?
There was
just get a picture book.
That's what it is.
I'll never forget the first time I read a movie review of Chris Hahn. It was something he was in something just off Broadway, I think, and the review said that they had seen better acting and tough acting than Chris. So
that's right.
Eating a cat on a hot tin roof.
Oh God,
he was very Marlo Brandon-esque.
Well, he did. I was going to say, you've heard of Tennessee Williams. This could be Ohio Hahn, or what could we call him? Ohio.
How did this turn into a Chris
I don't know. It just did because we're grieving. I told you earlier before we started up when I said some off-color stuff. You got on to me, and I said that's part of the grieving process.
That's how we're grieving. Okay.
Because I wanted to pay tribute to Jason being a little further right than Genghis Khan and Malcolm X, and
yeah. I will say, I went over and met Jason officially the first time, even though we killed somebody together in a movie scene. We really, we're really friends.
You're just doing it because it's on the page.
Besides your own reputations.
Yeah, exactly. So, I went over and met him, and man, we clicked right away. Great dude. I think at that time he was working at the prison. He was miserable working at the prison, but he was excited about the podcast, and we really, bonded over that. And he just loved the whole idea of going out and doing paranormal research and talking to people and learning how to become a better producer. He was learning. I mean, he knew some basics and he knew more than us, but he really worked hard.
And he was his attention to detail. Remember the first ones he would get on me about the background noise, and he was just getting on me all the time about stuff. Remember?
I know.
Like he was Edward R. Murrow or something,
He was. Mm-hmm. He was very particular about stuff, and he'd always tell me, like, well, we can't have this, and we can't have guests calling in from their cars, and we can't. It's like, Jason, this is podcasting. This isn't like a highly oiled machine. And back then there was like 10 people listening anyway, and they didn't care. They just wanted to listen.
Well, the thing about Jason is that he became like a brother to all of us, and he even told me that he had been sick and he came back. He said, "Man, I missed you. You're like a brother." And the thing about it is, the great thing about the material that we talk about on From the Shadows podcast is such, people enjoy the subject matter so much, whether it's Bigfoot, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, whatever it is. People love the material so much. You could get people with totally different backgrounds, totally different, ways of lives, political ideologies. It doesn't matter what it is. And you can bond together over that subject matter. And that's what made it so great. You take a group of guys like the four of us, me, Grover, Jason, and the Howler, and you mix us together, and somehow it all worked out. But just the love of the subject matter, and Jason loved the material, loved. He got to go out on ghost hunts. He had his first actual real paranormal experience. Remember?
Oh yeah.
the ghost touched him and just.
Hey, you don't. Never mind. Finish stuff.
But that's, I mean, those are the kind of things that, what a really cool experience, and just an incredible guy, and just sucks that he's gone especially at such a young age.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when we first started doing the Midweek Howl, and because we had different schedules and we could get stuff, for some reason we got the Howler, oh my God, dude. You go back to some of those first ones, and you got me and Jason just dying. And if we had recorded the stuff we couldn't put on the air that we went off on tangents about, oh
yes,
my gosh, that would
totally, absolutely,
that'd be priceless.
Absolutely, because he was, and I said that jokingly, and to some of my listeners, he is a big black man, former truck driver, like a lot of the flavorable people, if you will, have done a lot of things. He was certainly one of them, and I could transplant him down here in the Ozarks with me, and he would fit in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He would fit in, because
absolutely
he just would have, and wouldn't have missed a beat, which is it's yeah.
Well, the thing that people don't know about Jason is he had a great sense of humor, and he and I we would get into some of these stories, and some of the stories he told are just crazy. His wife is Japanese, and he went to Japan to meet her, and here he is, this big, muscular black dude who is former power lifter, and he's walking around Japan and in Tokyo, and a lot of those people had never seen a black guy up close, and they would come up like he was like and try to touch him. He'd be like, "What the hell are you doing?" So he goes to this bar, and he sits there, and these three very pretty Japanese ladies come up, and they start talking to him, and he spends about 2 hours talking to him, and they get closer and closer to him, and then, they start, eventually they were across the table from him, and then after about an hour and a half, they're sitting practically on his lap, and he's like, okay, maybe this is their culture, and finally his wife shows up. They weren't married yet; they were courting, as he said, and she's not mad or anything. And he's like, wow, I can't believe she's not mad. These girls were sitting on me and stuff. And they get outside, and he kind of asks about it. She goes, well, Jason, you didn't realize those were guys. He didn't realize it.
Well, hey, for the average dude, not only from Ohio, but from where I'm from, they don't, until you've been in different environments, you know what I'm saying? You don't realize how I'm going to just say good some of them look. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's the whole ladyboy culture in the Far East, and he thought she was putting him on, and he's like, no.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God, that's it.
He starts thinking, well, I almost got myself in quite a jackpot.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know. I mean, they might have bit off more than they could chew talking to him. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking,
Oh God. Oh God.
I mean,
but he had great stories. I mean, he had stories we can't tell on this show, but he would get me laughing on some of these stories. And the thing about it is, he was dead serious, straight about them, and didn't realize how funny the stories were to me. And I'm just dying. He's like, can't understand why I find him so funny.
You mean like the time where he very seriously asked? Remember, we were sitting at the table. You just got done doing a podcast episode, recording, and he asked if we had heard of this guy named Eminem, this rapper named Eminem.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't exactly cutting edge sometimes, guys.
I know.
I'm just going to kill all the dead.
But
Because he was kind of.
years too late.
Yes, it was like he was a. I'm gonna say that he was like a dude from the country. Sometimes when you talk to him, and you're like,
He was
how are
absolutely.
you not an urbanized inner city black man? You were like a black dude from the country.
It is.
I think he grew up in Canton, Ohio, and graduated from Sandusky high school. So
that's not the country either. You know what I'm saying?
no, that's not the country at all. The fact that he was so backward on certain pop culture things was just, we would just die laughing.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And then we asked him after that. So, well, do you know who 50 Cent is? He goes, well, I don't know who that is. Why would I know who that is? I'm like, look, everybody knows who 50 Cent. He goes, well, I don't.
Well, listen to Jake Brennan's podcast this last week.
Oh,
he started talking about him. I mean,
a disgrace. Oh yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Not to get off topic, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Jason. And I just for the Eminem thing. I didn't know if he was putting me on or not.
Right.
But then you quickly realized he was never putting you on. He was dead serious all the time about everything. And, and I mean, because we didn't grow up with him and hadn't been, didn't know every little thing about him, the more, you'd start digging in and learning stuff and how cool, he told me cool stories about his grandpa and his grandpa having ties to the mob. His grandpa was kind of like the enforcer down in, I think it was in Kentucky where they were from, where they had a big farm. He was kind of like the enforcer for some famous mob guys.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what? And he's dead serious. I don't want to say it was Al Capone, but it was somebody similar to Al Capone's stature that dealt, that would be a name would be familiar. But yeah, he ran stuff for this mobster and collected money for him. And actually his grandfather ended up owning a huge piece of farmland down in Kentucky. And that I believe still is in the family. And it was like, what? Like, why are you up here working in a prison? Why aren't you down there farming? Because it was, but he would tell these stories and you're like, okay, I kind of see where, some of his aw shucks innocence comes to, because that wasn't how he was raised. He was raised out in the country as a kid, getting sent down to his grandpa's farm and stuff like that. And then oh my gosh, Judge, did he ever tell you the story about, since he's gone, we're telling the story about so he's about our age, right?
Yeah, he graduated, the same year as you did.
Okay. So this would have been in the early 80s when computers first, were first starting, we're talking war games stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And, he actually figured out he broke into a bank, cyber, through the computer, through the phone. He was a hacker and stole a huge amount of money from a bank.
Whoa.
But just did it to see if he could do it and told his dad about it. And his dad took him down to the bank. And of course he had to, put all the money back. Okay. But the bank had no idea. But Jason felt so bad about
being doing a civic duty.
Yeah. He just,
the white hat.
He just wanted to see if he could do it. And he couldn't believe that he could actually do it. And basically he was like, hey, look, if I'm 14 years old, that's all the older he was when he did it. And he goes, if I could do this, imagine what, somebody else older and more devious. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? And he goes, no, I'm dead serious. He goes, I got in a lot of trouble. It was my dad beat me with the belt for that. I'm like,
yeah.
Lowe's knows how to get your lawn ready for spring. And right now, you can take up to $10 off select Scott's fertilizers. Plus, you can save $50 on a Craftsman 20-volt 13-inch string trimmer and leaf blower combo kit. Now just $99. Get set for spring. Visit us in-store or online today, because Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid 3/23 through 4/5. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
You know how Jason got into podcasting was Jason was a huge fan of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Huge fan. And we would talk professional wrestling from back in the 70s and the 80s. And he just had a wealth of knowledge about wrestling and the entertainment aspect of it and the backstories on wrestlers. And I mean, he was an encyclopedia of useless information, much like me and Grove are.
Well, hey, how about the time we're interviewing Shannon LeGros, and she admits she has a huge crush on Jay Cutler, okay? Mm-hmm. And so we make jokes throughout the rest of the episode about Jay Cutler, okay? And she's laughing, and we're laughing, and Jason's laughing. And it was like the next week, I'm talking about that with Jason, you know? And, of course, we're talking about Jay Cutler, who played football for the Chicago Bears and the Broncos, maybe, right? I don't know who all he played for. Jason has no idea who Jay Cutler, the football player, is. He only knows Jay Cutler, the bodybuilder.
Mr. Olympia 4 times.
4 times, which was like, I'm like, what? I mean, I knew of Jay Cutler, the bodybuilder, but to the normal American male, you would have thought of the NFL player first. He had no idea there was a guy in the NFL that was named Jay Cutler. So the whole time he thought we were joking around with Shannon LeGros about Jay Cutler, the professional bodybuilder.
And he had been, Jason had been one heck of a power lifter. I mean, he was a strong, and I will tell you that the first time I met him and he shook my hand, I was like, holy crap, this guy is strong. And he really was just an incredibly strong dude. And loved powerlifting and competing and wrestling and just a real, I mean, I'd like to say a Renaissance man, but the stuff that he was interested in doesn't get you that title.
Well, it just depends. No, I think it just depends on, I think it depends on the crowd, right? I mean, I think of him as a sporting man myself. He was just into a lot of different, just a lot of stuff,
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't into mainstream sports like football, basketball, baseball. He was into bodybuilding, powerlifting, wrestling. I mean, he
loved to hunt. He could talk to you about guns and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he loved guns. He was the black redneck.
Yes, and I'm just going to say it. He was a trumper. I mean, he was a mega trumper.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, he was the bigger trumper than me.
He and I had numerous political conversations, of which he and I were on different sides of the coin or the aisle or whatever when it came to that way. But what's that?
Different aisles of the political spectrum. Let's put it that way.
And we could have some real good conversations to the point of where we'd be like, look, you're so wrong. And, I'm not, one of those. But at the end of the day, he said to me on more than one occasion, he's like, listen, he goes, we may not see eye to eye on this stuff, but he goes, I am never going to let anybody tell me that badmouth you because your beliefs are different than theirs. You know what I'm saying? Like he said, he goes, I will defend you because you're my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to defend you to have your right to think what you want
to be wrong.
think.
Sure, we understand.
To be, yeah, okay. How you want to frame it? Okay. I mean, look. But we did. We had those conversations, and and I think we were both better for having those conversations, but I appreciated the fact that he knew I had his back, and he had my back, even on some things that we disagreed upon, because he always felt like it was important to, have your own opinion, and that was a right that we all had, was, to have our own opinion. But the other bond that we had was so much greater than the disagreement we might have, and which sadly is something missing in most of the America, if not the world. That you can have a disagreement, but you should have a bond as a human being that keeps you from.
I mean, and not to get too serious, but the problem is today, if either you are blue or red, and if you're the opposite, then I won't listen to anything you have to say. And that wasn't Jason. He would listen to you. He would debate you. He might disagree with you, but he was still your friend. And he and I share the same political beliefs. So, but the big thing is that it's like, look, we're all Americans. We have things in common. We have more things in common than we don't have in common. Politics is just one aspect of things we don't have in common, but we have so many other things that we do have in common. And so, yeah, you can be friends with someone just because you don't share their same political ideology. And Jason and Grover were, perfect examples of that, because he used to tell me, I can't believe Grover. He said this. I said, yeah, he's pretty stupid.
I'm going to switch gears. Now, you were saying you reminded me in his paranormal hunt, he had a paranormal experience.
Yeah.
He did. The interesting thing was they went to this old movie theater, or not movie theater, this old theater with and they were doing this hunt. And the interesting thing was he was sitting down near the front row, and something touched him. Like, he absolutely knew that something had touched him. And, that it just blew him away, because he had always wanted to have some sort of, experience. And trust me, Jason wasn't one of these guys who would lie and say that he experienced something just so he could.
Oh yeah.
So if you were on the Ouija board with him in 8th grade, he wouldn't move it.
No, he wouldn't have.
So, but what made me think about that was, didn't the Native Americans? Didn't some of them think there was a thing where somebody was calling them to the other side? Like, when you had that experience, your time was shorter than others?
Well, I sure as hell hope not, because.
Oh God!
Hey, you guys are the ones out there stirring them up, not me. I don't go looking for no freaking ghosts.
I don't go looking for
sitting out there. And, you see that thing from NASA where they're sending some radio wave out and trying to gin up ET. Why?
Yeah, that's a terrible idea.
You know what I mean?
Terrible idea.
Apparently they do. Apparently our tax dollars are sending some signals up there into space, hoping it'll alert somebody.
Oh,
well, yeah. I just talked to a guest that it doesn't matter. They're already here. They've been here, and they've been working.
Not
with
them aliens. We're talking about the ones from space. Not all of them in the southern border.
God. Oh, we're talking about the ones from space. But the interesting thing about that experience that Jason had was he sort of believes, because of the theater that he was in and the time period that it was from, that the ghost was actually, or the spirit was maybe of an usher trying to get his attention to move, because he, as a black man, would have not been permitted to sit where he was sitting when that theater was operating in its full glory.
Right, because the black patrons had to sit in the balcony.
That's right.
I actually brought that up to him. He didn't actually bring that. I brought it up to him, and then he hit him like, "Oh my gosh, maybe you're right."
Oh, I thought that was him.
No, I'm actually the one that brought that up to him. I'm like, wait, maybe because you were sitting in the wrong.
So you just completely sabotaged my story about Jason.
I did, because I can't sit back and let you tell these falsehoods.
Well, you know what I was thinking? I think that shows. Never mind. I'm not going to do it to you. I'm not going to do it to you on a day like today, Easter Sunday.
Oh, God.
It shows when he was telling the story what you thought he should have been he was in the wrong part of the theater.
Oh, there you go. See,
supposed to be in the back of the bus.
See, Judge. Judge, you do judge people.
That Ivy League education made you think of that right off the bat. You knew what that ghost was thinking.
Well, I imagine it was a period piece. You got to understand.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I think Jason would have. I mean, I got to think he's listening, right? I mean, if we're talking, I mean, to me, if anybody is going to experience the afterlife with a sense of awe and wonderment, and want to share it with us, it's going to be Jason.
Yeah, he could come. I mean, when I go to sleep tonight, I can see him. We don't know. He might be here.
I mean, think of it this way: if you were someone, if you have the ability to come back, and I'll tell this quick story about my grandmother, just as it relates to Jason. My grandmother always had talked to my mom about whether or not you could come back and give a message after you died, whether there was a hereafter. And my grandma said, "Hey, look, if there's a way for me to come back and let you know, I'll do it." So my grandma passed away, and about 2 weeks later, my mom had this dream. And in the dream, my mom saw my grandma. My grandma said, "Donna, I want to show you something." And she took her into this room, and she showed her this tapestry, this huge, ornate tapestry. And my mom woke up from the dream, and she thought, well, that's kind of weird, I don't know, it's a strange dream, but no big deal. So my mom's friend asked her to travel with her to this mall. This place is called Lazarus. Now, we were poor. We as a kid, we could not afford to shop at the mall. That was the positive high society of getting to go to the actual mall. And so my mom rode along with her friend just for good company. And they get to Lazarus, and they go up this escalator, and they get to the top of the escalator, and right there's the tapestry that my grandma had showed my mom in this dream state. And so my mom was convinced that, yes, the dead can come back, make contact, show you things. So with that said,
I can't wait to see what he's going to show me.
I got to be honest with you. Knowing his sense of humor, I can't wait.
That's right.
I'm a little scared. Yeah, I'm a little scared. And two things that he used to tell me about that he loved was, we all know that he drove truck and he owned his own trucking business for a while. And he used to tell me,
King of the road.
Yeah. He said he would pull off on the stretch there from Vegas to LA, like going through the desert.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
And he said he would pull off in his, he had a pickup truck. Sometimes he'd go back out there and he'd pull off and listen to Art Bell out as he sat in the back of his pickup truck, staring up into the sky, wanting to see a UFO. He listened to Art Bell and George.
So Art Bell, and that was the ambiance. I mean, that would be like listening to Art Bell at Ground Zero, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so he said he would sit there and just watch the stars, looking for a UFO or whatever. And I'm like, wow, like that's kind of cool. Like, he just had no problem just going out there and just being his own man.
Being his own man.
Be his own man and be in amazement of what the world and the universe had to offer. And also, he told me a great story of while he was driving truck, stopping somewhere at a rest stop in New Mexico, I think it was, or Arizona.
Crazy story, yeah.
And guess who was in the truck stop? Willie Nelson.
Well, did he holler at him? Did he say anything
He
to him?
sat there and talked to Willie Nelson for he said probably a half hour. And he said Willie was one of the nicest, because I think it was a truck stop that Willie Nelson owned. I think Willie Nelson, he said, owned some truck stops and would just always stop by. And he said he sat there and talked to Willie for at least a half hour. And he said, like, Willie was amazed almost that how much Jason knew, because he didn't look like the kind of guy that would be a big Willie Nelson fan.
Well, yeah, I'll just say, and Willie's generation were skeptics sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And he just was like, man, what a great guy that Willie Nelson is. And I'm like, and you know what's odd is Willie's still breathing, man. I hope that when Willie kicks it, he gets to sit down with Jason again, and they get to talk about Trigger and you guys know what Trigger's Willie's guitar, right?
Oh, see, I thought that was Roy Rogers' horse.
No, Trigger is Willie's guitar. It's got the hole in it and stuff that he still plays. So, and that was one of the things I think that amazed Willie, is that Jason knew his guitar that was named Trigger. So, I just thought, like, hearing those stories about Jason, it just amazed me. You know how much of the world and stuff he had done. You know,
well, being a truck driver, I mean, you see a lot of the United States when you're a truck driver, and he was an international traveler. He'd been all over the place, not just Japan, and where he almost got himself hooked up with a couple lady boys, but he had been all over the world, and so he was a wealth of information and great stories, and maybe they were not necessarily the stories that other people wanted to hear, but I really enjoyed him and got a kick out of him, and he's going to be sorely missed as a friend, and if there's a way he can come back and make contact with us, brother, by all means,
hopefully.
And I think he just scares the shit out of the howler.
No, I think what he's going to do, he's going to tell me where the big deer are. He's going to be able to tell me if you. That's what he's going to tell you. Just tell me, hey, there's no deer out there underneath your stand. Don't get up this morning or something like that. You know, I think he'll.
I just have this fear that I'm going to be like somewhere, and all of a sudden I'm just going to hear this greetings in his low, deep voice.
In his who did he sound like? What was that?
Isaac Hayes.
Yeah, I was thinking of another one. Who sang?
Barry White.
Barry White.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jason's definitely going to be missed, and it's going to be a rough week when some of the stuff we have to go do happens, and but you know what? I think my life's much better for having Jason in it, even if it's been for a short time. And I want all the listeners to know that sent messages and sent me texts and emails and stuff. He got them all. He knew everybody was praying for him and pulling for him, and he really appreciated that. So it's kind of awesome that we've built this community of people all over the world, and I know it's going to suck for a lot of people to hear this, because they did get to know Jason, even though he hadn't been able to be on the show for a while because of scheduling and his illness. I know I've heard from people that they felt like they like he's part of their family too, because they come in contact with us every week a couple times. So I know he appreciated everybody's support. So, but I appreciate you guys jumping on tonight and sharing some stories, and just remembering Jason.
Well, we do so with a heavy heart, and prayers to his family.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's right. Amen.
So, Well, everybody, that's the tribute to Jason. So, I wish we didn't have to do it, but I'm glad we're able to.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
And now, a special motorcycle weather report from Progressive.
And today's forecast, expect a steady breeze with a 100% chance of twisting down those country back roads gleefully on your motorcycle. Some will want you, others will want to be you, and animals everywhere will yearn for opposable thumbs just to work that throttle like you do. Oh, nature's cruel design. That's your forecast. Back to you.
This has been a special motorcycle weather report from Progressive, where every day's a beautiful day to ride with 24/7 roadside assistance from America's #1 motorcycle insurer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Roadside assistance subject to policy terms and limits and may require comprehensive coverage.
Maryland sports fans, there's only one sports book in the great state of Maryland with over 50 years experience booking bets and supporting customers. Betfred Sportsbook at Longshots is now open and is the only sportsbook in Frederick offering cash betting on football, basketball, world soccer, and more. Visit the Betfred Sportsbook at I-270 and MD-85 in Frederick, right next to Longshots off-track betting. Go to BetfredSports.com for more information and your chance to win exclusive merchandise. Must be 21 or older. Play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.